Hi, I'm Lovoni.
And I'm Sarah, and welcome to the Lovoni and Sarah podcast, where we talk all things weight loss and well-being.
On today's episode, Sarah and I are talking about how to go from mortified to motivated. We've all had those embarrassing moments, perhaps because of a faux pas. Maybe you're embarrassed having people over into your home because you don't like how it looks, or you're running to the store. You've decided, I'm just going to go looking like I just rolled out of bed. And of course, you run into someone you haven't seen in years. We've all done that.
Every
But I
time.
think for many of us, the most embarrassing thing, or one of the most embarrassing things, can be weight gain. Using these feelings of discomfort can be a powerful catalyst moving us to make changes. But before we get into today's episode, let's do our catch up. Sarah, how's it going?
Wow, what a week we've had.
Right? I know
So,
last time I spoke to you, we were
I
on
know,
the
getting
same
ready.
continent.
Exactly. So, in the last week, I've been to the States, been to New York City. I have met with you.
Mm-hmm.
We've had breakfast together. We've been to the top of the Rockefeller Center together. We've had dinner together. Yeah, brilliant time. Really, really loved my first trip to the States. So that's the big news. And now back in our own homes,
Back to
like,
reality.
back to
Back
the
to
other end of a
reality.
screen again. So yeah, so that's been obviously the biggest event of my week. It was brilliant, absolute brilliant. Loads of walking, which was good for the steps count and the exercise.
Yeah.
I was my sort of one of my biggest interests, so we were talking about this off our recording, but was the food choices. Was I was surprised, actually they were quite limited, at least at the mainstream places where we were going. There I thought there'd be wider choice, but actually certainly the places we went to there wasn't. But that said, I enjoyed everything I had, so it wasn't like I had bad food. I just thought that actually there'd be a bit more variety. But we actually had
Everything I had was really yummy.
yeah, really
Yeah.
good. We actually had a
Mm.
really delicious Korean meal on the Monday
Oh,
before
oh,
we
you
came
did? Oh,
home.
I love
Yeah.
Korean food.
Oh, it was so good, really fresh. They just kept bringing it, little pots of sort of kimchi, and oh, there was a
Mm.
really gorgeous courgette and garlic dish, and
That's zucchini
squid,
for everybody
zucchini
else.
for over your
Yeah.
side,
Yeah.
and squid. Oh yeah, really, really
Oh,
delicious. So
nice.
we
Oh,
mixed it up, lots of good food. So yes, fantastic trip. Exhausted now, as you can imagine, after packing everything into 4 days and then getting
right.
back
I
on
know you
a
did a lot. You did
we did
so
a we
much.
did a lot, but that was
Very
good.
impressive.
That was good. What about your week?
And
Other than coming over to you flew in to meet me, what else have you been doing?
yes. Well, I've been, just trying to get back into a routine from,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, since I did all those cookbooks.
Yeah.
But I'm doing my 30 minutes a day, every day,
Mm-hmm.
exercising, doing that. Oh, look. Oh no, I've got my dragonflies. I was gonna say we had them matching.
Oh, I have the bee
Yeah,
today. Yeah.
right. Yeah, sometimes I take the lid off mine too. Anyway, sorry about that.
Of
Um, these are cups. Can I just talk about these for a sec,
course you
Sarah?
can. Yeah.
These are from Sarah's collection. So I've got dragonflies because I love dragonflies. Sarah does all these beautiful drawings and then has them put on fine bone china. So this is for hot or cold. I've got ice water in it right now.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, they're like travel mugs. Very swish travel mugs. I
Well, they
love
are
them.
because they're travel mugs, but still actual. I mean, they're quite thick because as opposed to the mug, but a travel mug is still
Right.
made out of china, so it's quite unusual. And I
Yes.
think that's their unique selling
Yes.
point, really. Yeah,
I know they're beautiful. Yeah,
they're one
much
of
nicer than
people's
the
favorite products.
yeah. Oh, are they?
Yeah, they go. They sell really
Oh,
well. Yeah. Huh?
but yeah, Sarah's company, Dragonfly and Blossom. Just going to give it a little plug
Thank
because
you.
she
Give that little
won't.
shameless plug.
Beautiful, beautiful. I have cups, saucers, plates, bowls. Oh, love her stuff. Anyway, yeah, back into a routine. I've
Yeah.
lost. I weighed myself this morning. Normally I do it on a Friday. We record this on a Thursday, so I've lost 2.4 or 2.2. Oh, anyway, it doesn't matter. Which really isn't that much because I'd put on 2 pounds
Well, there you go.
the
That's
week
corrected what
before.
you've. Yeah, it's just
Oh
corrected.
yeah, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah. Anyway. But that was just because since I, got home, granted I was only gone 2 nights, I've just been eating small portions, so
Yeah.
and exercising.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing.
We've had a good
Now,
week.
Yeah. Oh no, here we are. I did write it down. I lost 2.4.
Okay.
And then, so as far as my eating goes, I'm just still making my way through the produce in our garden.
Okay.
Yeah, because we've still got lots of it. So this episode, Sarah, mortified to motivated.
Yes.
Now this was your idea to
It
do this one.
was. It
So tell
was.
me, like, why did you decide on this episode? Did something in particular happen?
It
I'm
kind of
interviewing you.
inspired. I know. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
What
was
inspired
inspired
you for this?
really by a realization. It's kind of a light bulb moment where I was just embarrassed. I was by so much. To give you an example, I'm walking my dogs. We were out, we'd gone away for a weekend and we were walking along. And I looked around and I just thought, oh my God, everyone else's dog walking gear is really cool. And I suddenly was so aware of how crap my the collars for the dogs were, because they were old and they were dirty or tired, looking tired looking, they didn't match. Now, all of these things are not life-changing important. I
No.
understand that. However, I was embarrassed by it and kind of ashamed of myself that I'd let it get like that. When you're blind to things sometimes, you're like, I hadn't even realized that that's actually how it looked. And that sense of embarrassment, just thought, a light bulb moment came on. I go, well, just change it then, Sarah. Get yourself a replacement dog collar and lead for the dogs so that when you're walking the dogs, you don't feel
You don't feel
embarrassed
like that.
or ashamed, because actually there is no need. And I have the power and the control and the agency to make those changes. So just do it. And then I suddenly started thinking, well, why don't I do that with everything in my life? Because if you're embarrassed by it, actually, that's a really useful, or can be a really useful tool to be motivated to make change. So that's where, if I'm honest, that's where it started. It started with the dog leads and just looking around thinking, everyone else's is so much better than mine. And
Oh
it's
my God.
difficult because I think there's an area where you need to be careful, isn't there? Because comparison,
Yeah.
as we've talked about in previous episodes, can be the thief of joy. So
Yes.
I think that you need to be careful. It's not something which you need to then be shameful about because someone else has got something better than you. But if you use that comparison as a reference point and actually genuinely within inside yourself you want to change something, and you see someone else has got something that you can then not be envious of, you can just be thinking, I'm inspired by that, that's what I'd like to change it to or emulate. That's the difference, isn't it? It's not something which you should be shamed by someone else making you feel a certain way. It's a case
Right.
of using that to make the change. So that's where all of this started. And I suggested this episode because I think there's lots we can talk about and lots that you can use. And it's tapping into that mindset of being motivated to make the change rather than letting that feeling of embarrassment mortify you, shrink you back, and actually then almost lead you to do less than you even were doing before because you hide behind something. You don't have to have it that way. It can be different. So
Well, and I think with embarrassment comes a certain, like shame or guilt as well, don't you think?
yeah, yeah.
Especially when it comes to people's weight.
Mm-hmm.
The man behind me on the plane had to, and I hadn't seen him get on, so I didn't know, what he looked like. He got on after me, but he had to ask for a belt extender. I did see
Okay.
him when I got up to use the restroom, but and he was a big man, and that
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he did feel any shame, but I mean, there is shame in things like that, or maybe
Yeah.
going to a concert not fitting on the seat, or
Yeah.
those kind of things. But I think people ignore things, they push them to the side, whether it's like a pile of crap by the door when you come in,
Well, you become
or
blind to it, don't you? You just stop seeing it half of the time.
yeah, I don't know. Or you look at it and you think, oh, yeah, I'll get to
Yeah.
that. I mean, just little things that they might seem so, just trivial to a lot of people. But when you stop and think how many things in a day that you see in your home or that you feel with yourself
Yeah.
that you could change, that that do bother you, all those things mount up to something bigger than the triviality of them.
They are.
if
And
you
I
understand
think
what I mean.
exactly. And it's even at the beginning of this when you talked about, going out to the shops and you haven't bothered, yet you just look and absolutely
Right.
you think, oh, I'll just nip out. Who cares?
That's
And
always the time you run into
it
somebody.
happened to me this week. I got off the
Mhm.
aeroplane, I got home, I had some work orders that needed to be posted. So I did them all and just thought I'll just go nip. And guess what? I bumped into someone I hadn't seen for 20 years, a parent of one of my close friends from school. Really lovely to see him, stopped and chatted. But in the back of my mind, the entire time, all I could think about was I
Right.
knew what I looked like. I had hair that was like frizzy all over. I mean, because it was raining and I looked like I hadn't slept because I hadn't no makeup. I just looked dreadful.
Right.
And it was really hard for me to try and push that out of my mind and think, concentrate on this conversation, because actually it's really genuinely nice to see him and catch up. And he saw me walking down the street and we walked past each other and I thought, I think that was Malcolm. And then he turned around, called my name and asked me to come, like actually drew back into a
Right.
conversation. So I just thought that's the most important part of this interaction, not the fact that I looked like I've literally crawled out of a black bag. I looked awful.
Right.
But then the lesson is, do you know what? There's two options here. Either you genuinely don't care, which is absolutely fine. You know
Fine.
what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fine. If I went
Yeah.
and I'd gone and thought, I don't care, that's fine. And actually part of me was a bit like, you're gonna have to take me as you find me. I've just traveled for like been up for 24 hours and traveled. So, and I did say, I've just got back from a long flight or a long travel, so that's it. But if I do care, then don't go out like it. It's literally a
Right.
case of brushing your hair, putting, if you want to wear makeup, for me, putting makeup on a little bit and putting a clean top on. And then, all right, you may not look as polished as you want to look, but
Right.
actually
But
it's kind
10
of,
minutes would just
yeah,
make you enjoy the moment, because I think what happens in situations like that, whether it be your home, somebody comes into your home and it's messy, or, like that, you bump into
yeah.
someone, you're not looking your best, that you're not in the moment with
No,
them
because you're
because you're
just in
thinking
the back of your
about,
mind all the time.
right, right. And it's the same with like weight.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're not happy about how you look. You feel uncomfortable in what you're wearing, because that's another thing, like pulling at your bra and,
Yeah.
just your pants too tight or whatever. Freaking do something about it. That's really what it is. That's, the premise is if something's bothering you, then
Yeah.
fix
Find
it.
motivate. And I think with your weight, and an embarrassment with that. Now, the difficulty is that's not going to change overnight. It's not going to be
No,
suddenly it's done. But I
just
think,
start now.
but the fact that you know that you're making the effort. Oh,
Shoo,
bless you.
shoo.
Is that it? Is there more? Or are you done?
I
No,
think I'm done. There
still
could be
okay.
one more in
If
there.
there's one more, we'll go for it. But I think, in that moment, all right, you may not still be comfortable with your health or the way that you look or the clothes that you're wearing. But if you know that you're making a change, that then will make you feel a little bit more confident, I think. So that in itself
Yes.
gives you the confidence to say, oh, okay, I'm not happy, but I know that I'm working on it. That's
Right.
already a different conversation with yourself, isn't it? As opposed to, oh my God, I'm embarrassed, I'm ashamed, I hate the way that I feel, I hate the way that I look.
Right. Because
So
that perpetuates itself, doesn't it? When you're
oh
like
yeah,
that,
yeah,
you just think, oh, now I'm just going to go and emotionally eat or
yes,
something. You don't think I'm going to go and have a salad and go for a walk. But that's what we're telling you what we want people to do, right?
yeah.
Or, if things are in disarray in your life or your house, pick something and sort it out.
Well, and exactly that. So it's
It's
even
as simple as that.
within the house, it's just, you can walk into a room and you just think this has been untidy now for weeks or months or whatever
Or
it might be,
years.
or
Sometimes
years.
people,
And
yeah.
sometimes I start a project and then I run out of time from getting it finished. So currently I have three rooms in the house that are partly decorated because they've been started and not
Right.
finished. And then you just think, you know what? If I live with it, it's fine. But then if someone comes in, you go, and you feel like you need to explain and make an
Blame
excuse.
yourself. That's the thing. Yeah.
So the next thing that needs to happen is like, you know what? Dedicate a day and get that done. Just one thing at a time. So this weekend, I will dedicate half a day. Probably it'll take me to finish one of the rooms that I've started and get it done. Now, there's a balance of, I think people could say, oh, but I haven't got the money. If it
Right.
involves a big investment or a big expense, that's fine. It doesn't have to always be. So if you were trying to emulate someone that you've seen on Instagram or an influencer or something and say, well, it's all right for them because they can buy what they want, travel where they want. I understand that. You're not trying to say you're going to match someone, but what you can do is take an element of what they're doing that you like and make an improvement to your life if that's what you want to do, not because you're pressured, but because you want to do it. And that doesn't have to involve a lot of money. You can still take the clothes out of your own wardrobe. And I am willing to bet that if you pull a few things out, make a bit of a capsule wardrobe out of it, you can make some new outfits that you didn't even know you had just by spending a bit of time and pulling things together and consciously putting an outfit together rather than just grabbing a sweatshirt and grabbing a pair of jeans and putting them on and going. That's the difference. People spend a bit of time making a plan. And I think that's one of the issues around this is time. So what we're probably finding is people that have got this vision of what we would like to be doing, they've probably put some time into it. This has not just happened. So if it's because they're healthy, it's because they've put some time into exercising or eating well or drinking the water that they need to drink. It's not by accident, is it, that they look a certain way or are healthy. And so that's one of the pieces of learning, I would say, that I'd like to give to sort of people as a bit of advice is the fact that understand that people put time into things. And if you want to make the change, you're going to have to put some time into it yourself. You think?
That and the fact that, you were talking about people not being able to, afford to, change their house or whatever. But it doesn't cost anything to tidy up.
Tidy it up, clean it.
Purge
it as well.
And clean it. I mean, it takes no time. I mean, it takes no money to do that.
If you clean some things out, tidy it up, give it a hoover, give it a polish, a bit of a fresh scent, all of a sudden,
big difference. Yeah. And it's the same with, like if you know that you really need to do something about your weight and you're just sick of yourself, then, start with your fridge and your pantry. That costs nothing to do that. It really doesn't. If you want to go and get containers and jars and stuff, obviously, there's a little bit of money there, but you could go and spend $20 and get some things. Even like op shops and, they have stuff too. But it's just the doing it. How many times have you opened a cupboard and thought, God, that's a mess. I need to clean it out, and then just shut it again.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how when you do things, it frees your mind up. And like I said, it might sound trivial, but people don't realize how much all this builds layers upon layers. And so I think it prevents people from doing what they really want to do. It's the same with, with losing weight. People think, well, I have to go to the gym, I have to exercise for ages, I don't have the time, blah, blah. There's always excuses. Really, that's what it comes down to. And a lot of the time, any of those things that we talked about, there's excuses. I just didn't have time. Really, what it comes down to is you just can't be bothered. Sorry, but it's true. It's, people can make time. If you have time to sit and watch TV or scroll through on your phone, then you have time to do those things.
But I think that's the difference. So I would suggest if someone's not embarrassed by their situation, they're unlikely to want to change it, are they? So I would say that if you are embarrassed by something, that's good.
Right. It's a motivator,
because that is the very small grain that's then the start of making the change. Like if you feel embarrassed, I'm really glad that you do, because that means that you have something inside you that means you want to change. Because if you're not embarrassed by it, it will just stay the same, and that's fine. If that's what people want to do, that's absolutely fine. But we're talking about people that want to make a change to their life. I think that embarrassment is not something that we should avoid. I think it's something that we should recognize, we should own it, and then use it to motivate ourselves to make the changes which are absolutely possible in every single life, in a way of one form or another. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as what someone else is doing. But we're talking about affording things. Everyone's going to do a food shop of some sort. Okay, everyone is. If it's on, no matter what your budget, my budget will be different to yours, which will be different to somebody else's. But within that budget, you still have the power to make the choices about what you're buying for your food. So if you choose to buy lots and lots of junk food, whether that's sugary, whether it's high in fat, whether it's high in salt, that's a choice as opposed to making the healthier choices. I don't know, do you have it in the States? But over here in the UK, we have like the color coding on the front of packets, so it'll tell you whether
Oh,
something is, it's really quite good actually. So it
I don't know
tells
if
you
they
with
do.
the fat, the sugar, and the salt, they color code them.
Right. Okay.
So red, amber, green. So you can have a look on the front. If it's all green, then fantastic. Unlikely that it's all green. So you can then start to make some choices. If something's really red all the way across, don't buy it. Pick up something else. If you don't have the color coding, just take a look on the back. The information is still there for yourself. And I think within that budget, we're not asking you to then suddenly have to spend more. It's just make choices within what you can do. And it's the same within your time within the day. We've all got the same amount of time. We have different requirements within that day. Some people have, you know, to be out of the door early because their shift starts, or they've got children to get somewhere. Everyone's got different requirements. I understand that, but we still have the same amount of time. So if you've made this commitment to yourself because you're embarrassed about something, carve out 10 minutes, like we've spoken before, and use that 10 minutes to make a change, and they add up. And I think that's my sort of thinking around this episode was embarrassment is automatically seen as something which is a negative, because if you're embarrassed about something, you've got something to be, as you said, shamed about, and it's a negative. Yeah, absolutely. If you can change that mindset of thinking, I'm embarrassed and I'm pleased that I am, because now I can start to make a change. And the overarching thing on all of this is action, isn't it? And that's what we've said many, many times before. The motivation is coming from the mortification of being embarrassed. But the only thing that's going to make the change is action. So whether that's purging to get rid of the things out of your house, whether it's the exercising, even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's in your chair and you're doing some exercising, whether it's choosing to read instead of watching yet another something trashy on the television, or whether it's you know, to spend
listening
a bit of
to our podcast,
listening to the podcast and getting motivated, just walk for 10 minutes. Exactly. You know, cooking rather than just sticking in something which is got full of salt, sugar, and fat, and probably loads of chemicals in it as well.
Or getting takeaway
because it's expensive, but it's easy. And you know, every now and then you're going to do it. This is not a perfection. It's not. But if you can start to make those changes, you'll be so surprised about how your embarrassment has genuinely changed, because then you're so pleased with the changes you've made. So that's my message, is I'd like to say to people, it's okay to be embarrassed, but actually use it. And you said yourself, after we talked about the scheduling for our episodes for this season, and we talked about
and I
this
forgot about that.
You had that moment yourself.
So when we had talked about it, and I forgot when, because, you know, Sarah came up with this idea, and then when I was putting the notes together, I'm like, where was she actually going with this? But then listening to you talk, and I'm like, oh, that's right, we talked about it. And what I took from that was everything that had been bugging me, like little things, and these sound so trivial, like the tags when I'm food styling, and I have tags on my linen napkins and stuff, and they always seem to turn up and show up the wrong way, you know, so you can see them in a picture. I'm thinking, why the frig don't I just cut them off? Oh, simple solution. It bothers me every time. So that's what I've been doing. It takes me a second to do it, and I'm like, oh God, I should have done that ages ago. Just little things like that have just bugged me. That I think, well, it'll take me 2 minutes. I can just fix that. You know, office is a mess or whatever. 10 minutes, I can have it to somewhat tidy. It doesn't have to be perfect. And, you know, it's the same, like I keep bringing it back to weight loss. I mean, people think that's such an undertaking. Yeah, it's good to have a plan. But, I mean, anybody that is avoiding going to a reunion, for example, or doesn't want to go out with friends because they've got nothing to wear because they feel too fat. We've all been there, right? But you can make a change now, like Sarah said, use that embarrassment, feeling of shame, guilt, whatever, in a positive way, rather than making it as a catalyst to more, you know, negative things that will just exacerbate the issue. use it in a positive way. So that means going for a walk,
doing it, yeah,
chucking the crap out that you know is not good for you. You know, just little things like that, because all those little things lead to bigger things.
it does.
And it makes you feel better when you do things like that.
And I just want to point out that it may well be that you don't enjoy making that change. So to give you a bit of an example, is and we've spoken about this ourselves, but every evening after I've cooked and we've eaten, I always clear down the kitchen. So I clear all of the cooking things, the pellets, they go into the dishwasher. I wipe down the surfaces, wipe down the oven, because at the end of the evening, I want the kitchen to look like that so that my next day starts afresh, because there's nothing worse than coming down with a pile of plates I don't have a huge amount of counter surface, so I have to move things about. And my partner came and said, "You love cleaning. What are you doing?" I said, no. I don't love cleaning, but what I love is the result of the cleaning. So I love the fact that my kitchen is clean.
Feeling.
So what I have to do is I have to do the cleaning and the wiping down so that I get what I want. And I just wanted to say that to people as well. So when we're talking about this motivation, this action, it may well be that you don't enjoy some of it. Hopefully you learn to enjoy it, or maybe you do it straight away, but it might be that you don't enjoy all of it. But what you will enjoy is the result of doing it. So I think that's important to remember as well, is that sometimes you just have to push through things which are not massively enjoyable. Maybe you would have preferred to have had the takeaway this evening and have a Chinese, but actually the result of eating the fresh food that you've cooked will be more enjoyable in the long run, because actually you're making a progress to what, you know, to a weight loss or a health gain, whatever it is that your target is. So I think that's worth remembering. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I start like a purge in the house, pull everything out of a drawer, and I think, why did I ever start this? Because you've just got this mound of stuff,
you
and
make
all
a
of
mess.
and the energy has left your body, and you think, I wish I just
but you have to push on, because now you got shit everywhere.
push through it, and then afterwards you stand admiring those shelves for the next 4 days. So that's something else that's worth remembering, is that the action may not be something that you actually enjoy, but you do it. And maybe the same with exercise. I'm to be honest with you, I'm not a massive lover of the exercise.
Most people aren't.
No, I do it because of the result I want at the end of it.
Yeah, and how you feel. But, you know, we've talked about this in previous episodes, is the whole making small sacrifices for long-term gain. Because when you do things like that, you feel better about yourself.
You're investing in yourself. Yeah.
You're investing in yourself. And so many people don't. And, you know, and I think it just leads to, like, you know, like we said, shame, guilt, embarrassment. I mean, that's no way to live your life. You know, I mean, I need to lose a lot of weight, but I'm doing something about it. And that in itself pushes me forward.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just am doing one day at a time. Yeah. You know, I shop, so I'm got everything there. But I'm like, okay, today, this is what I'm going to eat. I'm going to do some exercise. And I've stopped setting these massive goals and just break it down.
It does make a difference.
Yeah. And that's why 30 minutes of exercise, that's nothing, baby.
No,
you know, I mean, yeah. And so it's making time for yourself, whether it be picking up magazines, or, you know, I was talking to Sarah about how I want to have a garage sale, because after my big purge in February, there's still things that I want to get rid of. There's still things I want my husband to get rid of. We were going to do it this weekend, but that's just not going to happen. And that's just something that I guess I can probably do. Life gets in the way, his work. Yeah. But, you know, just these small things that I'm doing are making me feel better about myself, rather than feeling guilt, that whole guilt thing. I have a problem with that. Sarah, however, doesn't, but, you know.
It's hard being perfect.
Right. I know. God, it's that Aries thing. But, you know, when you're feeling like that, you're not feeling good, and you want to feel good. I mean, life's meant to be lived, not meant to be, you know, hidden away because you're embarrassed about how you look, or not, wanting to open your doors to people because you don't like how your house looks, all these things. I mean, I'm not talking somebody that maybe has, is disfigured or whatever. We're talking about things that can be changed.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to change it, that's fine, embrace it, whatever. But if that you can change it, then do it, because you can.
Yeah, if you're embarrassed, then often you're embarrassed because you're comparing it to something else, and use that comparison, as we said, not as the thief of joy, but as the inspiration. No. And actually say, do you know what, I'm gonna, and we've talked about this before, like with sports people, I'm going to emulate them. How did they do it? I'll do it that way then, because clearly it's working for them. I'm going to have a go at that, whether it's a lifestyle or whether it's a routine, whether it's what they're eating, how they're exercising, adapt things, make it work for your own lifestyle. But that's what I've learned. It's a case of using my embarrassment, using that comparison, going back to the dog walking, walked out, I saw that they had really nice matching collars and leads. That's really quite a simple thing to fix, isn't it? I'm just going to get a matching collar and lead. They weren't mega expensive for my dogs. And so now when I go out, I am the proudest little pooch walker of all time. I'm like, here we go. So, it can be the littlest thing, but what I did was have a look at the way, not what exactly that they've got, but the way that they're doing it. And I think, well, I'll do that then, because that makes sense to me. I just use that to use as the motivation to make the changes. And that's what I think people can do for themselves, no matter how small.
And stop shying away from things that you deem as difficult.
Yeah.
I mean,
just
you have to, you just have to push through it. I mean, not everything in life is easy. Oh, goodness.
Okay, so on that note,
not
then,
losing weight.
I'm going to say, what's the one thing that you're currently embarrassed about that you're going to make a change this week?
Well, my weight, of course. And this week I obviously can't do it all in a week.
No.
But I'm finding my groove.
Yeah.
And so I think I found it. So I just want to continue on with that. I'll report in next week and tell you what it is. But I think I've sort of found what it is. So yeah, that is just thinking, okay, now I found it. Let's keep the momentum going. That's the big thing. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the really big thing, which is a good segue for next week's episode in a moment.
Yes.
It's the momentum, keeping that going.
I think for me, because my surgery now, so I'm going to have my left hip is going to be replaced next month. So I'm a month away now. So for me now, my focus is going to be on me. So now we've had our fabulous trip, and there was lots of planning and work went into that. It's now about me. So that's going to be my exercise, because I want to get as strong and as fit as I can. And I don't mean I'm going to be done in a month, but
you can do a lot, but you can do a lot in a month.
So my exercise and my eating is going to be a focus. And then my home, because there's some things that I want to get. It's not all going to be done, but I want to get it clear. It's cleared up a bit of things. So that's my next month, is a case of, okay, now the focus comes back into me and the home, rather than it being to the out and the planning. So that's my main focus.
So there are goals for the coming week, coming month. Yeah.
And cooking, within that, I'm going to start thinking about my batch cooking now. So again, so that it's ready for the surgery, but also some cleans. I'm going to get a batch cook of the tagine done, some courgette and bean casserole, which I'm really enjoying. And this week I'm going to get lots of fish and rice. My son's actually got a boxing bout coming up in a couple of weeks as well, so he needs to get on to that. So that's it. What about you? What are you going to cook?
Oh gosh, I want to do a nut and seed bread, just to have maybe with my breakfast. So that's basically what it is, nuts and seeds. So I know I'm getting those good fats, especially coming into winter. I had that great roasted chicken with the chimichurri. I'm going to try and replicate a version of that, but using polenta instead of the mashed potatoes that was on. I'm going to do a bit of a spin on a shepherd's pie. Doing meatballs in it. I'm going to do a simple salad with the crispy quinoa that I keep talking about. Some hoisin, shrimp and cashews, and a slow cooker Vietnamese beef dish, and maybe a ginger cake. Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So next week, what's happening?
Yeah, so join us next week. We're going to be episode 36 next week. How to keep the weight off once you start to lose. We've got a special guest next week, Elaine, who has lost 80 pounds, and she's going to share with us what works for her when keeping the weight off. So that's going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. As always, thank you so much for listening. Please send us a message if there's any episode you'd like us to cover on the podcast. And you can visit our website, lovoniandsarah.com, for extra information, helpful tips, and some delicious, wholesome recipes. And find the links to connect with us on social media there as well. But remember, if you feel embarrassed about something or a situation, use that energy to make a change. Soon you'll feel the shift from being mortified to motivated, and you will see the real benefits. That's do it. Look at you. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm motivated, baby. Talk to you all next time.
See you next week. Take care.
Next week. Bye now.